A debut for Hamish Chat. I'm pleased to be joined by Locks on the Blue Tinted Glasses podcast, possibly for the last time, depending on how Leicester City get on for the remainder of the season. And before we talk about on the pitch, the Locks, I'd like to talk about off it. There's obviously some protests going on against the ownership of Leicester City with Project Reset. Can you just tell us all about that for people that don't know anything about it? What's happening and why is it happening?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's important that fans across the Premier League are aware, because I think, a lot of Leicester fans have been labelled entitled in the last kind of few months. Because this is a club that have done the impossible over the last 10 years. Promotion to the Premier League, won the FA Cup, European campaigns, and we were the best run club in the country. And obviously, back in 2018. The owner, Vishai, passed away, and obviously after a game against you boys, of course. And although we did have a good couple of years after that as well, since COVID, I would say we've completely capitulated. The club has just gotten worse and worse over time. I think it all comes down to poor decision making, mate, at the top. We have a director of football called John Rudkin, who I'm sure you've heard of. He is a Walter Mitty kind of guy. He's done everything. He used to make the beds at the academy back in 15 years ago. He's done a bit of interim management, and for the last 10 years he's been the director of football. And of course, there have been a lot of good decisions in that time. But when the going gets tough, he seems to he seems to make the wrong call. And the problem is not that we're in another relegation battle, and it's none of that. It's not the lack of signings in January. It's the fact that the same decisions, poor decisions, keep being made. I mean, we got relegated from the Premier League with all the good things that happened. We got relegated with the most expensive squad to ever go down. We budgeted for 8th place, which again, that's ambition. But we didn't learn from the mistakes that took us down. So when we got relegated, we went and gave Connor Cody £90,000 a week. We gave Harry Winks £90,000 a week. We were still making these poor decisions within the wage structure and all of that. And that has led to these PSR concerns, these problems with PSR that has stopped us being able to be competitive this season, like going out and signing players in January to try and turn things around. So, yes, mate, it's honestly something that, it's important people to remember that even in the good days, in the European days 3 or 4 years ago, even last season when we were winning the championship at a canter, the anger was still there. This isn't something that's just come about because of relegation, because of a relegation battle. A lot of the time for the last 5 years, it's been solely on John Rudkin, but more recently now, it's the focus has been switched to the owner, Top, who is obviously the son of the previous owner, because at the end of the day, he's the final decision maker. He is at the very top, and it's on him to make the tough decisions, and he seems incapable of doing that. And people have their theories as to why that is. I think it might be loyalty to the guy that kind of he grew up around him. Really, this John Rudkin, he grew up around him. His dad trusted him, and I don't think he's ruthless enough to make the tough decision to get rid of him. So that is what Project Reset are asking for. They're not even asking for a new owner. They're not asking for the owners to sell the club, as some people have accused them of. They want a change at the top. They want a fresh, they want a fresh look on everything. Maybe bring other people in. And at the moment, it's just not happening. And we believe, a lot of Leicester fans believe, that if we get relegated, it still won't happen. There still won't be any change. So that's the frustrating thing.
Yeah. I'm jumping the gun a bit here, but if you go down, do you have big fears? I genuinely don't know the answer to this. This is why I'm asking you. But I recall when you were in the championship and you were coming up, and there was just like debate about how the EFL are after you, but also the Premier League are after you. So it was like, if you don't come up, you're going to get punished by the EFL, and if you do come up, you're going to get punished by the Premier League. So if you get relegated, can the EFL now impose sanctions on you? And if so, what are they? Are you looking at like a fine? Or are you looking at a points deduction? What's the...
So the truth is, nobody knows. We should have been punished for the season we got relegated. So the 22-23 season. That's what we avoided back in the summer. and it was on the on a loophole that we weren't a Premier League club at the time of the breach, because it was like 2 weeks after we'd been relegated. So then you'd imagine that means then the EFL can punish us. But apparently, speaking to Kieran Maguire, football finance expert, he says there might be a loophole on that side as well, by us saying, well, we never played in the Championship when we breached, so you can't punish us. What is factual though is that it is like we breached last season as well when we got promoted. Now, we haven't been charged by the Premier League. Again, a jurisdiction problem. The Premier League can't punish us. As far as we're aware, the EFL are really looking forward to getting their hands on us next season if we get relegated. Now, last season, in about March, the EFL gave us a transfer embargo. Obviously, it didn't really mean anything because it was March. You couldn't do anything anyway. And that embargo hasn't been lifted. It's still in place. So when we get relegated, that is still there. Now, whether that's just kind of, they're waiting for an investigation to take place, that I don't know why it's still there or what we can do to get out of it, but it is still there. So fans really, really are worried about that, because if we get relegated, basically, on the face of it, you can't sign anyone. And, you're going to have players wanting to leave. It's because they wanted to impose a business plan. They thought we were going to breach, which apparently we have done, but at the time we hadn't. So they gave us an embargo. It's like cat and mouse, mate. It is like cat and mouse. It's not a good look, by the way. A lot of fans are saying, oh, well, we've done them once, we'll do them again. It's really not a good look. And it makes a mockery of the football club, but also the rules in general. Yeah. I don't know what your views are as West Ham fans, Leicester fans. Even before we started getting punished, we just were like, it's absolute rubbish. These rules, it benefits the top clubs. It doesn't benefit us, guys.
We've had that outlook on this channel. I can only speak for myself and the other guy from Hammer's Chat. Our take's always been, if your owners have got money, they should be able to spend it how they want to. As long as they're putting the money into the club, then they can spend it. And you look at how quickly when Newcastle got butt over, how quickly they brought in new rules in place to shut them down immediately. Yep. And Man City are now just beating that rule, and it's been deemed illegal by an independent panel. So for 3 years, that rule that was in place has now been deemed unfair. Now Newcastle can go sue the Premier League. Man City can sue the Premier League. I think Chelsea are the other club that are looking at suing the Premier League. And now they're arguing about the current sponsorship deal that's in place. Obviously, you're one of the clubs that previously you had sponsorship deals with your owner from his company and stuff like that. And who's going to pay for the Premier League being sued? Is other Premier League clubs. So clubs like West Ham are going to have to pay to compensate clubs like Newcastle United because of the rules put in place by the Premier League. So the whole thing's just got really mucky, I think. And the fact that you're on the verge of relegation or you're still in relegation in the eye, you don't know if you're going to have a transfer embargo. You don't know if you're going to get punished by the EFL. The whole thing about there was two reasons for these financial rules. One, level playing field. Hasn't really happened. No. The last time we've seen a surprise winner was when the rules weren't in place and you guys won the league. So, yeah. And the second one is to protect the future of clubs. But actually, I think it puts the future of clubs at risk, as we're seeing with Leicester City, which is you go down and what's going to happen to your football club? You don't know. And how are you meant to plan long term when you don't know what's going to happen in 3-4 months' time? It's just, I think the whole thing's ridiculous.
You mentioned the shirt sponsor, so we always, a lot of fans across the Premier League will always remember the King Power on the shirt. Yeah. You can see it. I've got all the sponsors here, but the reason that isn't in place anymore was because of that rule that you're talking about. We had this dodgy sponsor from, I don't know where they are, Indonesia or something, come in, BC Game. It's like a gambling or a crypto website, something like that. And they've obviously paid more money than King Power could have by the rule, you know what I mean? So it's, and they're banning now, aren't they? Gambling sponsors and things like that. So yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. It's just a complete mockery. Most football now is played off the pitch in the Premier League. That's what it is. And, yes, we've actually avoided points deductions this season, but which is good. But we were talking about it for months and months, and apparently players and managers have been put off coming to Leicester City in the last 12 months or so because of the potential of points deductions. And that's not good at all.
Well, we'll discuss one of those managers in a second, but I would like to discuss your current one at the minute, Ruud Van Nistelrooy. What do you make of him? How much is he to blame, or are you excusing him of any blame because of what's going on in the summer, and then Cooper coming in, and you've had to sack him, Ruud's come in? What's your opinions on your current gaffer, and do you want him to remain if you go down?
I feel a little bit sorry for him in a way, because he came in, he is working with Steve Cooper's squad.
Yeah.
Of course, large parts of it is the squad that came up from the Championship. That was Enzo Maresca's squad, of course. But Steve Cooper spent 80 million, I think, around that amount. Sorry, in the summer. Most of the players that came in really just aren't good enough. There are a couple, of course. I mean, Facundo Buonanotte on loan is a great player. Bilal El Kanouche as well. He's going to go on to great things in his career, I think. Good signings, but there's too many there that just lack the quality and the pace, which is the problem at the moment. I mean, Jordan Ayew, Bobby De Cordova-Reid, experienced players, of course. And on paper, you'd think, well, experience that will help you in a relegation battle. We're just toothless in attack, and at the moment, due to injuries and things like that, they are our wingers. Jordan Ayew and Bobby De Cordova-Reid. It's frightening, really, in 2025 that's our attack. But so yeah, of course he's had problems with that. I mean, he wasn't backed in January because of PSR. Apparently, we weren't able to get certain deals over the line. There are rumors he was lied to. He was promised players in January, and that's part of the reason he took the job, and he's not had them. So on that part, I do feel sorry for him. It's a tough situation. However, he's not blameless at all. I mean, he after the Brentford game that we got hammered last week, he finally came out for the first time and kind of blamed the players and said, look, this squad isn't good enough. Every week we play someone who's better than us every week. And that's okay. But the problem is he's not giving the other squad players a chance to prove themselves. So Steffi Mavididi played 46 games last season in the Championship. Lightning quick, skillful, numbers-wise last season, incredible. But he can't get a look in. Now, yeah. I understand why, to a certain degree. I think he lacks certain qualities that you need in a relegation, but I think tracking back, work rate, that's not really at the level required. But when you're losing every week, when you're getting battered every week, you have to try something new. You have to look for a bit of inspiration from the squad. And he's not doing that. He's playing Jordan Ayew and Bobby De Cordova-Reid every week. And if you keep doing that, keep doing the same thing, you're going to get relegated. So he's... There's a lot to blame. There's a lot of blame being put on him now for that. He's tried to change certain things. He's tried a couple different combinations at the back. That is one thing that I don't blame him for. It is truly horrific. I mean, it is. I mean, it's the same back line, really, that got relegated 2 years ago. James Justin, Yannick Vestergaard, Wout Fass, Victor Christensen. There's maybe you could argue that Christensen and no, I won't argue. Actually, they're terrible. They're terrible. So we brought in a fullback in the window, a £3 million from Parma. You can't expect him to turn your season around. It's truly awful, mate. But I'd say it's 50-50 at the moment. Between the quality of the players and the manager, because he's not doing enough to get the best out of a poor bunch of players. That's the problem.
Can you see you staying up, or are you already sort of resigned to relegation?
Yeah, we're resigned. I think majority of us now are. I think there was a period under the last manager that we thought, okay, we're in games. We picked up a couple of results. There's just about enough quality to stay up. And as the season's gone on, I think that opinion has changed a lot. I think fans now are thinking, there just isn't enough quality, and the gap is growing between the Championship and the Premier League. It's ridiculous. And just quickly, I mean, again, that's to do with the rules as well. The Premier League, the gap was never this big. It was never this big. And now all of a sudden it is and it's difficult for any team to come up. Leicester City, we didn't really see ourselves as a newly promoted team. We were in the Premier League for 10 years. We won it. We went down. We saw it as like a little hiatus kind of thing, right? We thought, right, we'll come back up. Yes, it will be difficult, but we should have enough, and we don't. And that shows how big the gap is now. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two things to sort of put into context a little bit. Is one, the signings you've made, you're picking up cast-offs from Fulham and Crystal Palace, who are teams that they're not relegation candidates as such, but they're also possibly going to be in the bottom half of the table. You know, Fulham are sitting mid-table at the minute, Palace are at the top of the bottom half of the table. But for the first part of the season, they didn't win in the first 8 games. So you'd have been looking at them thinking, hello, it's just one of the teams we could get. But you're paying to pick up their cast-offs and giving them multiple years on a contract on, I imagine, a decent wage, and you're going to be stuck with them in the Championship as well, because no one else is going to want them. And then B, I seen the other day, the projected points combination for Southampton, Leicester, and Ipswich was 63 points, and it's going to be the lowest on record for the 3 teams that go down, beating the record which was set last season by the 3 teams that went down, which was 66 points. So it does show that the last 2 seasons, this season, last season, potentially it's the worst 2 groups of 3 going down. So is it a reflection of the quality of the teams, or is it a reflection of the gap between the 2 leagues? And I think there's an element of both, but I think it's more the latter, which is it's very, very difficult. You come up, you need to spend to stay up, but you can't because of PSR. So it's like, right, we're here now, let's spend some money. No, you're not allowed. And also, if you go back down, you've got the EFL waiting for you as well. So, well, come on then, let's have a look at your accounts and see what you've been up to while you've been in the Premier League and stuff. So I think it's a very difficult thing to do. And you look at the Premier League now, and if you were to rattle off clubs and say, the question is, do you consider these clubs being an established Premier League team? That's the question. Brentford, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Everton, West Ham. These are the teams in the bottom. Wolves. These are the teams that are outside the bottom 3, and you probably say yes to them all. So actually, there isn't any non-established teams in the Premier League anymore. It's really becoming a bit of a closed shop, actually. I feel like the shop at the top's opened up. You look at the Champions League battle at the minute. Wow, incredible. Fulham are 2 points behind Man City, right? That's what we've got. Villa are 10th. This is fantastic for the European race, but there's got to be a cost, and that is that the gap between 18th and 17th is increasing. So.
And you know, again, we keep talking about it, but it's because it's so relevant, the rules. And you know, there's a reason why Newcastle didn't finish top 4 2 years in a row, right? It was just the one. And then Villa, there's always a drop off. And like with Leicester, we managed to finish 5th twice, and then we finished 9th, and then we got relegated, right? Because you can't continuously keep up with the big boys because of how the rules are. That's the problem. You know, Leicester tried 1 year not selling a big talent, and it was the year we finished 5th. You know, Leicester, we've sold Mahrez, Kante, Maguire, Fofana every year, Chilwell. And the 1 year we don't, it falls apart. PSR's on us. We can't spend anything. And that is flawed. And, you know, I don't know how they change it. I don't know how they turn it around. I don't know how they fix the problem. But that's what they're paid to do. They need to think of something. You know, I'm not sure how they do that. They're floating ideas around, aren't they? And they voted against the new set of rules, right? You know, the other week. And it's like, the big boys want that. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Anyway, from your team to my team, but first, Graham Potter, a manager you were at worst heavily linked to, and depending on what you believe, you approached him more than once to try and come in and become your manager, but you didn't fancy it. What's your thoughts on Graham Potter? Was he the guy you wanted to replace Maresca in the summer?
So it was actually the 3rd time. So I think we approached him when Rodgers was sacked as well. And he didn't want anything to do with it. It wasn't, you know, it was quite soon after Chelsea. And then when Enzo Maresca left, we went in for him again. Yes, we wanted him. You know, according to Fabrizio Romano, it was pretty much done. I'm not sure how true that was. And then again, when Cooper was sacked, you know, we've gone after him several times, and it just never gets over the line. And you know, why it doesn't get over that, I'm not sure. You know, there's rumors it's because of money. It's rumors because he might want to restructure. Kind of like I've talked about the protests and stuff. He's not happy with the current setup. I'm not sure, but he is the manager that a lot of fans did want. We saw him as a manager, that a modern thinking manager that was kind of going back to, you know, when we brought in Brendan Rodgers, for example, and Enzo Maresca, it was kind of like a similar ilk of that. Not necessarily the football, but just the modern way of thinking about football. And that's what we wanted. It's not turned out that way. I don't think we'll ever get him now. I think the boat. I think the boat's gone on that one. But when I saw he came to West Ham, I thought, yeah, not like you were concerned at that point that you'd get relegated. I think everyone knew really it would probably be between the current three and Wolves, but I just thought, yeah, that's a really good appointment, and it's a shame. It's disappointing for us, but I think he's had a bit of stick with how things went at Chelsea, and maybe how you look at Brighton probably did better with De Zerbi than compared to what they did with Potter. But I think he's a great manager. I do. I think he's the style of football that his teams play can be really good, but he's not afraid to be pragmatic. I mean, you look at what you did against Arsenal the other day. And he's not afraid to change it, and you saw that at Brighton. He changed a lot, really. So I'm sure there'll be some ups and downs along the way, but managers don't last long in the Premier League these days. 2-3 years, whatever it is. But I think he's a real good appointment for you.
And what do you make of West Ham in general?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few mates who are West Ham fans, and it was a pretty rough start. You weren't too happy, obviously, with Lopetegui, but I think there's enough quality there. I'm not saying you're going to finish top half or anything like that, but I think you'll finish potentially above, Man United, Spurs, and all of that. I mean, that's not really saying anything special, but yeah, honestly, I really like West Ham. It actually reminds me of the year we won the league, when you guys had a really good year that year as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
And some of the players in your teammate, I mean, Bowen, Kudus, Paqueta. Oh, I just wish we had some players like that in ours. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, by the way, been really, really impressed with, over the last few weeks, especially the games I've watched. So, yeah, I think, I hope you do well, mate, after tomorrow. I think you are gonna cause us some problems, unfortunately. And I think, go on.
No, you go. Go on.
I was going to say, I read the other day that you've not had back-to-back wins or something in the league this season, and I think this is the time, unfortunately.
I was going to say, do you have any optimism going into the game tomorrow night?
I suppose the only optimism that we could have is that we beat you last time. But there's obviously things, like it was Ruud Van Nistelrooy's first game, so it's a bounce. You didn't have the new manager at the time. I think we did a job on you that day. To be honest, you should have won. If I'm on, and that's crazy since it was, there's the scoreline. But I think the amount of shots you had, didn't you set a record or something? I'm sure you set a record.
26 shots or something like that we had without scoring.
Yeah, and to be fair, I would say that a lot of them shots weren't too dangerous. They weren't from dangerous areas, but again, a good number of them were. We got very lucky. We did a job, and we got the 3 points. So I suppose that is the only optimism really that we can have, is that we've already done you once. But to be honest, things are a lot worse than they were back then for us, mate. There's no confidence in the squad. There's no confidence from the fans. Luckily, if anything, it's away, and our away fans are a lot more passionate than the home crowd. So that might give the players a little kick up the arse. But to be honest with you, mate, yeah, the optimism is completely gone from the club at the moment, all around, and that will benefit you guys. We're in the mud, and I think the players are almost on the beach. Yeah.
Sounds wild to hear you say that when you're in a relegation battle.
Yeah,
I do feel sorry for you genuinely, because like you said, we go back to 15-16, you won the league. We should have had a Champions League spot. You had Mahrez, we had Payet. It was like, hello, is there something happening here in the Premier League where the clubs away from the Sky Sports 6 are picking up really good talent for good fees, and we're able to come and punch with the big boys and stuff. And it was short-lived, and I would suggest that you've had the slightly more fun period between then and now, winning the league and the FA Cup. But we've got our European trophy there.
Yep.
But you've also had relegation, and looking at the long term, I do worry a bit for your club, actually, because you see it, don't you? You see clubs go up, down, and then they just don't come back up for a little while. They just get stuck. They run out of the parachute money, and it dries up. they have to sell players, but which players do you sell? And sometimes you look at the Leicester squad at the minute. Well, put it this way: you got relegated before, like you said, your defence, for example, is still together. Clubs may have came in for those players, but they didn't get them. So those players that clubs didn't come and buy are still there. So why would they come back and get them after a second relegation on the bounce? James Justin, I remember him breaking through and you thought, wow, this is a fantastic player. Just riddled with injuries and stuff. But you look at him now and you think, well, once upon a time I would have loved him at West Ham, but not so sure anymore. And I think there's maybe that sort of adversity against shopping at Leicester City this summer. Like you said, you've got Skipping, Winks in midfield, and not even your first two midfielders at the minute with Ndidi and Samani, but you've got the four of them there, and you think, I've liked Ndidi under Van Nistelrooy. I used to really rate him, but I thought he dipped a bit, but I feel like he's come good again under Ruud. But again, would you go spend money and get him? I'm not so sure.
Statistically, with all the tackles and blocks and interceptions and all of that, he's up there, I think, top 5 in Europe this season. And he's starting alongside Samari, who kind of has had a turnaround because his first year or two at Leicester was horrific. So I think there are players there that clubs will buy. I mean, the first one gone will be Mads Hermansen, the goalkeeper. He's incredible. I imagine if I had to put money on it, it would be Chelsea. Enzo Maresca coming for him. But then there are others. Like I said, Bilal El Kanouche, I can't see him drop into the Championship. I think he's far too good for that. Wilfred Ndidi, I think, will go. I think the contract he signed last year had a relegation release clause. So I'm sure a club will be able to pick him up on a free. So there are players. Abdul Fatawi, I mean, that's been a big, he picked up an ACL in October. He's lightning. And maybe he'll go. I'm not sure. I don't think he will. I think he'll have a year with us next season because who's going to spend money on him with just after an ACL? I'm not sure.
I feel like sometimes he almost owes you one a little bit. And it's not his fault he got injured. He was out for the season. But I think it's fair to say when you miss someone like that, that's the equivalent of West Ham missing Jared Bowen. You're gonna feel it. You're gonna struggle without him. So I think for him, that's his fault, and it's not the reason you're getting relegated per se. But it certainly had a big impact on your lack of attack in certain games and stuff. Did you sign because he got injured so early on? Was it at the start of the season, like when the
he went on international duty with Ghana, so he picks it up over there.
When was that? In September?
No, I want to say it was early November. I want to say.
Oh, I thought it was out for longer than that.
Well, the problem is that Steve Cooper barely used him. That's the problem.
Okay. That's why I haven't seen him.
Well, this is kind of where some people are feeling a little bit sorry for Ruud, where Cooper had basically a full squad available to him. Ricardo Pereira, there's another one. Hermansen, but some of these players under Ruud's time so far, they've been missing. So Hermansen was injured for a few weeks, and Ndidi was out. Fatawu's been out the whole time Ruud's been here. So we have missed some really key players over the course of Ruud's reign so far. So, but that's why we had a little bit of hope. Hermansen coming back and Ndidi coming back. Yes, all right, then we can maybe pick up some points, and it's not happened. So I think when those players came back, excluding Fatawi, when those players came back and things still didn't improve, I think that's where a lot of fans just thought, it's done. It's done. Well,
Locke, final question. Can I get your score prediction, please?
I'm going to say a reverse of the previous one, 3-1 to West Ham. Yeah, I think we might nick a goal off somebody's knee or something like that. A lot of our goals seem to be lucky at the moment, but we don't score many. So 3-1 West Ham.
Don't worry, I'm sure you might take the lead and Jamie Vardy will run around doing the crossed hammers or something behind the goal or something. One of my favourite non-West Ham Premier League players, Vardy, is. I enjoy his antics. But anyway, I hope you're right. I hope we do win 3-1, Locks. But thank you so much. For you guys at home, if you've enjoyed hearing from Locks and you want to hear more from the Leicester City side of things, you can check out the Blue Tinted Glasses podcast. I'll put a link to their social media in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, drop a comment by clicking thumbs up, subscribe to the chat. I'll catch you in a bit.